Here's an interesting one, because I think it's something that we're all finding is happening way too often. According to a recent survey done by the PPS Graduate Professional Index, 96% of pharmacists and 93% of doctors say South Africans are taking antibiotics too frequently, even when it is not necessary. The survey revealed that consumers use the internet to diagnose themselves, I know we've all done it, and visit the doctor's office to cure the illness with antibiotics. And this allegedly puts medical practitioners under immense pressure. So talking to us all about this is Dr. Dominique Stott. She's the executive of the Medical Standards and Services at PPS. Good to have you in studio. Welcome to Morning Live.
Good morning, Leanne.
Now, the survey revealing that medical practitioners are under pressure. So are they under pressure from somebody like me who I feel something, I've Googled it, and I'm like, yes, that's exactly what I've got. Let me just go to the doctor to get a prescription.
That, unfortunately, is exactly what happens. It's certainly one aspect of the overuse is somebody who does go to their doctor and say, I need an antibiotic, when there hasn't even been a microbe identified that will necessarily react to an antibiotic that's prescribed. And this is especially the case with simple infections like respiratory tract. People call everything bronchitis when they get a cough. True bronchitis would require an antibiotic, but not everybody has bronchitis.
I mean, you can see, and I do understand. I mean, I can see that with my GP and many other doctors that we go to. They try and treat it and try and not prescribe antibiotics. They're becoming a little bit more sensitive to it. But then it's also left to you, and they say, look, if it hasn't gotten better in 2 days, here's the script. If you feel it's necessary, go and get it. And 9 times out of 10, you go and get it.
They do, yes, absolutely, because people have a fear that it's going to develop into something far worse, which rarely actually happens.
So the advice here, because I think a lot of people are looking for advice, because we turn to doctors, we trust doctors that they are doing the right thing, that they're going to guide us in the right direction. Should we be a little bit skeptical about giving, and let's talk about children first, because you find kids are on antibiotics a lot these days. I mean, my kids are on and off them all the time, and I would do anything to stop that. But what do you do? How do you know that you should be taking an antibiotic or you shouldn't?
It is up to the medical practitioner to make that decision. So it's up to the medical fraternity to be more aware that, over prescribing antibiotics is a problem, and that to take that stand in the community and be brave enough to tell a patient, I don't think you need an antibiotic here. This is not required. I'll give you symptomatic treatment, even for children. But, however, you have to remember that the medical practitioner is the one in charge of the care. So the patient has to rely on what the doctor tells them.
If you take antibiotics too frequently, I mean, the big problem here is, and at the end of the day, it's not necessarily about the antibiotic, it's taking it, and then when you seriously need it, it doesn't work anymore. Is this what's happening? We're building up a resistance.
You know, the overuse of antibiotics, not only, may I say, in the medical world, but in the agricultural environment, has led to a kind of pressure, environmental pressure on bacteria, and they do change. They will mutate to allow them to survive. It's a survival tactic, and in doing so they become resistant, and the resistance is a huge problem worldwide. For example, in the United States last year, more people died from superbug infections than HIV, murder, Parkinson's disease and emphysema put together. These are scary statistics. That's because very, very scary. When you get a superbug infection, you're going to spend a lot longer in hospital, and potentially the outcome can be fatal. Whereas 30 years ago, those types of infections could have been cured with a simple penicillin.
Antibiotic or penicillin might work. Is this putting a lot more pressure on the drug companies to develop stronger antibiotics and to perhaps pump our bodies with a lot more than what we should be taking to enable these antibiotics to work?
You know, there's been various theories about the development of new antibiotics, because antibiotics cure short-term illnesses.
Yeah.
You either get better or you don't get better. Pharmaceutical companies have been reported as preferring to develop drugs against chronic illnesses like HIV and diabetes and rheumatoid arthritis and these sort of conditions where it's going to be an ongoing condition that requires regular treatment. So not enough money is being pumped into developing new antibiotics, even against these superbugs, because the patient will hopefully then just get better after a course of antibiotics.
Yeah. Just finally, I mean, just to give us a little bit of help when it comes to this, if you go to a doctor, I mean, in reality, obviously your normal cold and flu, your sore throat, your cough, should you be taking antibiotics for this? Because, I mean, you hear of cases where, I've finished a course of antibiotic and I'm still feeling terrible, so my doctor prescribed another course of antibiotics and I'm taking this and, when do you know? I mean, how often should you be taking antibiotics, or should we try and avoid them at all costs?
I don't think avoid them at all cost is the right thing to do. I think it's to be prudent and not to demand an antibiotic from your doctor if a doctor is reluctant to prescribe it.
Yeah. All right. Let's leave it there. Thank you for the advice. But I just think be a little bit more conservative when it comes to taking antibiotics. And that's really the message here. When you need it most, it's not going to work if your body's become immune. Dr. Dominique Stott is the executive of the Medical Standards and Services at PPS, talking to us about the misuse and abuse of antibiotics, a big problem world over, not just here. That much I can tell you. All right, the time now is 8 minutes before 7 o'clock, and all of us know the holiday season is right there. It's knocking on our door. In fact, the schools break up tomorrow. So with this in mind, Transport Minister